have to, we can try and get a mic to come to the audience, but I would like to leave them up here if possible. I see Karen.
My name is Karen Blumenthal. I work for student advocacy, and I'm on the board of Westchester Jewish Community Services. I'd like to say that here in Westchester County, we have developed a remarkable collaboration that addresses early childhood by providing mental health supports in a number of our Head Start and daycare centers. Collaboration between WJCS and the Guidance Center and Family Services of Westchester with Westcop thrown in. It's amazing. They've done incredible work. However, it took years and years of struggle, lots of advocacy time to get the county legislature to constantly put money into the budget for it. But this is only reaching a small number of daycare centers. And I guess my question to you is, if you have a program that is really proving its worth, that is a masterful collaboration, why not try to replicate it in more sites?
I'll answer.
Don't say money.
No. The answer is we should. And we're missing the boat by not doing that.
Someone else wanted to respond, or, okay, Liz, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm Liz Mark. I'm an advocate for youth as well as for people with disabilities, and I actually don't have a question, I have a comment. Having been around the block a very long time and talking about daycare and the importance of daycare and 0 to 3 education and being there for these young people, we all know, I think statistically, that preventive services and early services make the wealth of difference all the way through. And if you look at the map on the back that Cora was pointing to just in terms of college readiness, all of this boils down to those very, very early years. I have campaigned for, along with many people, the Invest in Kids agenda, and I feel very strongly about it. And what I am saying, and I'm hoping, is that it's a philosophy and a mindset that should garner your thinking collectively when you look at how dollars are dispersed and where you can get the best bang for the buck. And it's not always on the other end. It is at the early, early stages, and I hope that this philosophy of prevention sort of rides the waves when you make your decisions. That's it.
Thank you.
I could not agree with you more, and I think that the sort of long-term tragedy is the way the whole system has evolved. It evolved the wrong way. Early childhood, daycare, early childhood education is too often optional, not accessible, and it should have been universal to begin with. And you know, to the extent that we can find ways to change that paradigm, that is really the model that we should be at, because every kid's, I'm going to use the word kids, every kid's opportunity is really so much enhanced by the presence of early childhood education. The statistics are just irrefutable. So why we have this hodgepodge system is amazing to me, but we're all saddled with, we all have inherited this system that is really upside down. There were, in one of the school districts in my community, they were considering in last year's budget cutting part of their kindergarten program as a budget cut, just you know, unacceptable. And so I was meeting with some folks last week, and they said, why don't we make, instead of making half-day kindergarten is optional under state law, and Assemblywoman Paulin has a bill in on this, why don't we make half-day senior year optional, because they don't go anyway. And so we may need to amend Assemblywoman Paulin's bill, because there's some wisdom to that. So this is where we should put the dollars.
Great.
Thank you.
And I'll allow Assemblywoman Paulin to respond as well.
You know, I know exactly who you were meeting with. there is a coalition in Westchester growing that is, it's primarily faith-based. It's a collection of temples and churches from around the county, and I think it emanated initially from this community in Westchester's threat to close kindergarten. But one fact you should know, because in researching the bill for this group that I've introduced to require that kindergarten is no longer optional in New York State, which I know the Regents supports as well, is there's a requirement in New York State law that a school district has to provide education to a 5-year-old. So if a 5-year-old, for example, and I think everyone knows that East Ramapo and Portchester are the ones that we're talking about. If one of those districts decided to close their kindergarten program and a 5-year-old presented themselves to that school district, they would have to put that 5-year-old in first grade. So the threat, a kindergarten threat, is a false threat. It's just, the problem is that when you are working in a community where the parents are unaware of their rights and unaware of the laws, they take that threat very seriously. Instead of coming back to the school district and saying, you know what, you can't threaten me, because we're going to get all our 5-year-olds and we're going to show up on September 1st. So we need to change the law to help the parents who don't understand or appreciate that they have those rights, even under the current law. So, so we've introduced a bill to do that. It's actually the law in New York City already. New York City already has opted to do a home rule request, so they are already in the law as requiring kindergarten. So, and so is Syracuse, and so is Rochester. So we're only talking about the rest of us, and which is less than half the population, children in New York State. So I'm hoping to get that resolved this year, once and for all.
Thank you. I think we wanted 2 more questions from the audience? Or maybe one, just saying. And look at all the hands. Oh, someone stood up. Go ahead.
Service at $3 million in the fiscal year of 2013 and 14. These services help the grandparents and relatives who are raising grandchildren. And the question is, how can we get more support for Kinship families? Thank you.
I think I can address this. I was just the immediate chair of the Committee on Children and Families, and Kinship Care, as well as providing money for foster parents or grandparents, falls within that committee's scope. So I'm very aware of the program and the merits of the program. I can assure you that the Assembly has always had a strong commitment to Kinship Care, and I believe that ultimately the money will get restored. But I appreciate the comment, and I think you have the full support of everyone up here.
A different offshoot with the same generation. Some of us have been learning about the opportunities in intergenerational learning with child care and seniors, and the wonderful symbiosis and the learning opportunities and the ability to bring in grandparents in that generation and the little types in the other generation, and what both generations get from that and how valuable that is. And one of the things that we at the county level and the state have is an opportunity to look to these type of programs, and we're just learning about it. It seems to be more on the nascent end, but the more you can bring to us, the more I think we can possibly bring in both generations, both wonderful ends of the bookends. Leave us sandwich people still in the middle, but you can invite us to your events. We'll certainly show up. But I think intergenerational is a positive opportunity. It's something I'm intellectually looking forward to seeing if we can do more of, as the Mount Kisco Child Care Center does, and some other groups are working on.
I'm going to allow, I'm sorry, he's had his hand up, Regent Phillips, to respond.
Denmark, 97% of kids 3 to 5 go to full-time pre-K. And we're trying to compete in the world. Right now, the legislature and the governor have supported a small amount of money for half-day. What's the chances of advocating, I'm talking really to the Assembly people, advocating for substantially more money for full-time pre-K, enough money so they can hire quality teachers?
I'll make a comment, I know Shelley has one as well. You know, the money that was put in the budget, the $50 million to advocate for pre-K, or $25 million that was put in to advocate for pre-K, you know, I believe is being put in the wrong way. It's, you know, what we've seen, and I think that you're alluding to, and is that, you know, in Westchester County, for example, you know, we have pre-K programs. I'm talking about the ones through the school district. You know, in our cities primarily, you know, New Rochelle has one, White Plains has one, and what we've seen over the years, and I know many of you represent those not-for-profit groups, is that the school districts really can't afford to maintain them anymore. So what they've done is they have given them, in a sense, or they have contracted with not-for-profits to run those programs. And now we're at the point where the not-for-profits can't even afford. You know, they don't have the same requirements on them as the school districts, which is why the school districts contracted them out. So they don't have, you know, the pension requirements and the, you know, the union requirements essentially on the personnel. But they can't even afford, because we haven't changed the rate, you know, that we're paying the school districts. So what we're seeing is the school districts are cutting them out. They're giving serious consideration to cutting them out. White Plains, for example, last year was considering cutting it out. It got pressure not to, but you know, that's the problem. So it costs the school districts more to have a program that is optional. You know, we're talking about kindergarten being optional. Pre-K is, you know, is even more so. So, you know, so that's the problem. And you know, and that's now a problem not just in an affluent community like Westchester, where we have very expensive pre-K, or you know, just expensive. You know, but that's now happening all around the state. So we're seeing those pressures all around the state. So we can't even maintain what we have. So the money that's being put in the budget is to increase, you know, or to add to a program that is not really become self-sustaining. And that's the, you know, I would prefer to see the money shore up what we have, and therefore allow further expansion. The other underlying problem that we have is, you know, we've capped school aid. You know, foundation aid. Foundation aid is the name, you know, for the aid that we give our school districts, and you know, a lot of factors go in. You know, wealth goes in, enrollment goes in. So what we do is, you know, we say, okay, start a pre-K program, and we're going to give you a bump that year. But then we don't fold the enrollment bump into the next year when because they get a one-year bump. So we give them that bump for, you know, for that increased enrollment, and then we don't continue that bump. So so there's a disincentive built into our current structure to you know, for school districts to add programs. It's exactly the wrong way to go. So you know, and I know you're all sitting there and you're going, okay, you're the legislators, change it. But there's, you know, I heard Liz's remark a few minutes ago. You know, but you know, a lot of this stuff comes from the executive branch, the governor's office. We as legislators do the best we can to change as much as possible, and we are busily trying to get that done. You know, kinship care, preventive services. You know, just, you know, and there's just so much that we're going to accomplish. You know, I agree with you on pre-K. I'm well aware of the problems, and it's another one of the battles that we're going to take on.
Oh, okay. And we'll have the last remark, has to be from Assemblywoman Meyer, and then we're going to go